Hello, my name is Leslie Garr, and I'm very excited to be presenting for you. I'll tell you a little bit more about myself in just a minute, but first I want to go ahead and get into the reason for our discussion today, which is to talk about the anatomy of a successful LinkedIn profile. LinkedIn has been consistently an important part of the job search for years now, 10 years or more at least. Now that the job search is a little bit different than it's ever been before, and more people are spending more and more time online, LinkedIn is really skyrocketing to the top of importance when it comes to a successful job search and really just developing your career as a whole. So that's why I want to tell you a little bit more about how to quickly and effectively build or edit your LinkedIn profile to make sure you're paying attention to the most important pieces that will be effective for you. So what we'll cover is a quick intro just to tell you a little bit more about myself. We'll talk about why you should be using LinkedIn and what it can do for you in your job search. We'll talk about important profile sections, and I'll actually give you a live tour of my profile to just show you how they work in action and tell you a few tips about them. We'll talk about how to get your profile to AllStar level, and we'll talk about some networking strategies so that you can use LinkedIn to your benefit and get the most out of it. Real quickly, just to tell you a little bit more about myself, I am a certified career transition coach and professional resume writer, but that is not at all what I started out to do. I actually went to school to be a high school band director and got pretty close to the end of my degree program before I realized that it just didn't quite fit for me. So instead of trying to switch into a different major, I just decided to take some time off school and I went ahead and got started in my career. Of course, that happened to be 2008, which if you'll remember was another time when the job market was not really great. So I spent a lot of time going through some career transitions and just trying to figure out where I fit in to my career plan or what my new career plan was going to be. And then I actually was unexpectedly laid off in 2014, and that is how I wound up starting my own business. I've been working with clients and job seekers on their resume, LinkedIn profile, and interviewing skills for 6 years now. I have helped hundreds of job seekers with their resumes and LinkedIn profiles to get noticed by recruiters and to really have a more effective job search. You can find out more about me at resumeleslie.com/about if you want to hear more about my story. But for now, let's go ahead and talk about why LinkedIn is important for you in your job search. The main reason is just its massive popularity and effectiveness. I actually looked it up this morning, and there are over 500 million users on LinkedIn, which is just crazy when you think about it. It's a worldwide platform, and some of the biggest users are recruiters. According to US News, 95% of recruiters are using LinkedIn. Some recruiters are using it in the beginning stages to source candidates. Others are using LinkedIn to vet candidates when they start getting interested applicants. And then some of them are using them to vet towards the end. Once they've decided they've gotten it down to 2 or 3 people, they'll use LinkedIn to really see if they can tell major differences to indicate who would be the best person to hire. So lots and lots of recruiters are using LinkedIn, and that is one of the biggest reasons to be a part of it. There are something like 30 plus million different companies posting jobs on LinkedIn with 20 million open jobs on the platform. And Wired.com states that 16,000 clients and companies like Google, Facebook, big companies and small alike are using the LinkedIn recruiter tool, which is a whole different paid platform from what a typical person like me or you might use. And it really is aimed at helping people, recruiters and decision makers, to find the right candidates to hire. So it is massively popular and very, very effective in the job search because so many recruiters and decision makers are using it. What LinkedIn can do for you, it can help you to grow your network. That's actually one of the biggest things, because not even just thinking about recruiters using the platform and being found by recruiters, Networking has always been an important part of an effective job search. Making connections with people that are genuine and can help you advance your career is incredibly helpful. You can stay connected and stay front of mind with important people in your network simply by using LinkedIn in a strategic way. LinkedIn can also help you to grow your reach. So we talked a little bit about how many recruiters are on LinkedIn. And if you can start to develop a higher visibility and start landing in front of these recruiters and decision makers for company hiring, that is going to be a really, really effective way to expedite your job search and just make sure you're being as efficient and effective with it as possible. LinkedIn can also help you grow your authority. So you can build thought leadership by writing articles and sharing ideas on your LinkedIn profile through your news feed. You can develop thought leadership by commenting on other articles or posts from people who are in your field or who are important in your industry. All of these little pieces of your job search, a lot of times we don't think about them, but they really are some of the most effective ways to make sure that your job search is based on connections and people, because that is one of the biggest decisions that companies make, is they like to hire people who are vouched for by somebody else that they know. And the more that you can get in front of recruiters or get involved with a network who can connect you with the right people, that's going to be the most effective way to handle your job search. Real quickly, as effective as LinkedIn is, and as much as I urge you to use it to your advantage and to try to build out your profile as much as you can, one thing to note is that your LinkedIn profile and your resume really go hand in hand. What makes your profile excellent and top-notch is the content, and your LinkedIn and your resume content really should be consistent. You want them both, the content in both, to really be aligned with each other and to be aligned with your professional brand. That is going to be the best way to let recruiters know that you are who you say you are, and also to show them that you are organized and sort of cohesive with your job search and the way that you present yourself. So the LinkedIn profile is incredibly important, but if you don't have a strong resume to sort of go hand in hand with it, then it's not going to be as effective as you need it to be. So keep that in mind as we're going through and talking about the LinkedIn profile. If you have an effective resume to go along with it, that's the way that all of these tips are going to help you be most successful. Okay. So we'll dig a little bit into the important profile sections. I actually have 2 different slides with 4 each. So what we'll do is we'll talk about these 4 sections, and then I'll flip over to my actual live profile and I'll show you the pieces and how they work together and how to edit them. And then we'll come back, we'll talk about the other 4 important sections, and then I'll flip back to my profile and talk to you a little bit more and show you actual examples of those things in action. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk to you about is your profile and banner image. It's 2 different images. There's a profile photo that's very similar to the other profile pics on any other social media that you may be familiar with. And there's also a banner image, which a lot of the other social media platforms have as well. The important thing to sort of keep in mind about these 2 sections is that these are your first impression. It is the very first thing that people notice. Humans are inherently very visual. So when someone lands on your profile for the first time, or even before they land on it and they're just searching for various candidates with similar skills to you, the first thing they'll see is your profile photo, and then they'll see your banner image once they click to see the entire photo or the entire profile. So keep in mind that these are very important pieces, and even though a lot of people don't take advantage of them, especially the banner image, they both can really help to set you apart if you have something set up that is engaging and really starts to tell your story right away. Another important section is the headline. The headline section is directly underneath where your profile photo goes. It is highly keyword searchable. It has a 120 character limit, and you want to really utilize this to your benefit. It will default, the headline section will default to whatever is your current job title, but you can change that. And I highly urge you to change that and really take some time to consider how to get the best use and how to get the most relevant keywords into a 120 character section as organically and effectively as possible. So that's the headline section. The about section comes next. The limit on that is 2,600 characters. The reason that I'm telling you about the limits to a couple of these sections, number one, it's just important to know, especially the headline section being so small. A lot of clients that I work with think, oh, well, can we add more to that? Can we make it longer? We actually can't. With the about section, same thing. It's 2,600 characters, so you've got plenty of room, but you want to use that room carefully and be as concise with your language as possible. Another thing to note about the about section is that it is also highly keyword searchable, and it should be written in the first person. So you should be writing it using words like I and me and my, which typically you don't want to use in a resume, and you don't actually want to use those anywhere else in your profile. But in your about section, it should be more of an introduction, and it should be as though you were sort of having a conversation with the reader. So you want to use words like I and me and my in that section. The featured section comes next. This is a relatively new section in LinkedIn. And what it does is it allows you to show off some media items that indicate things about your career that you're most proud of. Now, you can show off media items in the about section, and you can also do it in the various entries for your employment, which we'll talk about here in a minute. The cool thing about the featured section is that you don't have to connect it or tie it with any particular job, and it doesn't have to necessarily be strictly about you the way that you might want it to be in the about section. The featured section will allow you to either pull some of the things from your profile, like a post that you've posted that you're proud of or that did particularly well. You can also show off an article that you've written, and we'll talk a little bit more about what that means here in a minute. And you can show off media items like a video or an image that you've put together from anything that you're proud of from your career. So those are some of the sort of top sections of your profile, and we'll go ahead and click over here to my profile, and you'll see live. Here, let me move this over here. You'll see live what my profile looks like. So I mentioned the profile picture and the banner image, and that's what you'll see here. And you'll see with the banner image, not only have I gone to the lengths of trying to make it visually engaging, I've also included text here to illustrate my brand and to start engaging people right away, because even though humans are highly visual, they will also take in some of the top words that might come up in this banner image. So I highly recommend that you take the time. That's what I do when I work with clients, is I create a banner that includes important keywords of theirs, because even though it's not keyword searchable, it is very engaging to an actual human who lands on your profile. One more quick thing to note about the banner: it is not something that's created natively within LinkedIn. I actually create most of my banners using Canva, and then I import them into LinkedIn. So to edit those, you can click on this pencil right here, and it will bring that up. If you hover over the pencil on your banner, it will give you the appropriate image size that it's looking for, and that really is important, so make sure you take note of the image size. Same thing with your profile picture. If you hover over the pencil, I guess you have to click on the pencil, but it'll bring up the image that you can use, and you can change the photo right down here where it says change photo. You'll see the headline that I mentioned right here below And that is keyword searchable. So you want to think about what people might be searching for when they search for people with your skills and try and create a headline in 120 characters that matches up with that. This section here, I didn't actually mention on the last slide, but I'll go ahead and tell you about now. These are two fairly new sections as well. This on the left says open to new job opportunities. This is an interesting option that will allow you to indicate what job opportunities you may be open to so that people or even the LinkedIn algorithm can suggest those opportunities for you. So LinkedIn is not just a social platform, it's also a job board platform. So if there are jobs on LinkedIn that match what you tell LinkedIn you're interested in, they might be able to recommend those for you. And providing services is another section that LinkedIn allows you to, for someone like me, for instance, I provide services to clients, and LinkedIn knows that I may want to tell people about what those services are. So it gives me a space to do that, which is really helpful. And then moving down to the About section, you'll see just the very top of the About section here. If you click See More, it will pull the whole About section. Remember, it's 2,600 characters, so you do have a limit, and the way that you would edit that section is just to click on that pencil right there. The final section that we've already talked about is the featured section, and you'll see that I am utilizing that. This is a video. This is a recent post that I posted on LinkedIn. I've also got some client testimonials that I've put together as an image, and I share those as well. So that's the featured section, which is also super helpful. It's helpful for people like me who are trying to get clients, but it's also really helpful for someone in a job search because you can really in a visual way display some of the things that you're proudest of from your career. All right, let's get back into some more important sections of your LinkedIn profile. Your experience section is where your job experience goes. Pretty self-explanatory. There are some media items that you can share through that as well. And I'll show you a little bit more about what that section looks like once we flip back over to my profile. Education section, pretty self-explanatory as well. You want to include especially important or relevant education. If you have education that maybe is from an old industry, you can decide whether or not that's going to be beneficial to you to leave it on. The good thing about LinkedIn is that it gives you more room than your resume. So whereas you may take off a piece of education or a piece of your experience from your resume because you're maybe targeting a different area, it may be beneficial to leave it on your LinkedIn profile, just depending upon what story it is that you're trying to get across about yourself and your experience. The skills section is another important one. It has a limit of 50 skills, so you want to be concise about what skills you decide to put in there. This is another highly keyword searchable section that can work really well for you. So you want to make sure that it aligns with the content in the rest of your profile, the content in your resume, and also that you expand it as much as possible, get as close to those 50 skills as you can, because that's going to help you come up in better search results with the LinkedIn algorithm. There are also several extra sections that we can talk a little bit about once we flip back over to the profile. Again, it's important to remember that you have more space to work with on your profile than you do in your resume. So it's okay if you include some things in your profile that aren't included in your resume. You just want to make sure, again, that content is well aligned between the resume and the LinkedIn profile, and that it really represents the professional brand that you've decided you want to present. Getting back into my LinkedIn profile, I can show you a little bit more. I didn't mention the dashboard section, which you'll see here, and the reason for that is because it doesn't show up on the public end. It only shows up on the private end, on your user end. So you can work through the dashboard. It helps you to see a little bit about who's viewed your profile, how many post views you might have had, how many times you've come up in a search. And there are also some additional settings and insights that you can get into with that section. So I encourage you to check out that section on your own. I'm going to go ahead and skip down to the experience section here. With the activity section, just because we're here, that is actually something that is visible to someone who visits your profile, and that can help them to see what your recent activity has been, which is another reason that it's important to stay up on your activity, try to be making comments, try to be posting information through your news feed or articles or anything like that. Try to be active. It'll help you be more visible. Okay, now moving into the experience section. A couple of things that you'll want to make sure that you do is when you are adding a new experience, which you'll do right here with this plus sign, or editing your experience, which you can do with the pencil, just like every other section. You want to be sure when you put in the company that you use the appropriate company name that hopefully is linked with a LinkedIn company profile. That's the only way to get this icon to show up. So this icon here shows up automatically because when I added the Resume Leslie job, I chose Resume Leslie, the company page, and that's how LinkedIn knew to include the icon, because I've created a company page and because it has an icon on it. Most companies will have a company page created, and you want to try your best to choose the company name that has the appropriate icon attached. Every once in a while, a company doesn't, and there's just nothing you can do about it, and that's fine. But if you can, try to make sure that you're using the company name. All right. When you get into actually putting the content into your description, one really helpful tool that's recently come out is to be able to use bold or other formatting within your profile. Now, you can't do it natively in LinkedIn. You have to use an external source, and there are several, so I won't even get into it. But if you do a Google search for LinkedIn formatting or LinkedIn bold or really any of the social platforms, you'll be able to find different third-party options that are free to use. And that is a really great way to make your content stand out against other people. So that is the basics of the employment section. You can see with each of the companies that I have here, I've chosen the company that's attached to the LinkedIn company page and has the icon on it. Your education section is pretty self-explanatory. When you go to add a new one, it will ask you about the school, the degree, field of study, years. Most of these are not required, so you can just fill in the ones that are, or you can fill in more if you have things that you're proud of that you want to be sure to showcase. Something important to note, this is an extra setting. You can share with your network when you add a new job or a new educational experience, or you can decide not to. So that's totally up to you, and the toggle switch is right here to do that. Your skills section is below that, and you can add a new skill just by clicking add new skill. It's fairly easy to do. You can also edit your skills by clicking on the pencil. So once you've added them, you can click edit, and there are actually some ways that you can categorize them or move them around to different sections. A few of the other profile sections that you might want to be aware of is licenses and certifications. And you can find all of these sections by clicking on Add Profile section right here at the top. So you've got your intro, about, your featured section, various pieces of background, your skills, various accomplishments. So if you have publications or patents or courses you've taken that aren't necessarily from a university or a college, you can add them here. So I encourage you to go through all of those sections as well. Real quickly, before we hop off of the live tour here, I did want to scroll up to the top and just show you a couple more things. edit public profile and URL is the place that you can click over to and actually edit your URL. So if you haven't done that yet, typically it defaults to something close to your name plus a whole string of numbers and letters. If you click on the pencil, you will be able to edit that and change the URL to something ideally as close to your name or your email address as possible. You can also, on that page, if you'll scroll down and continue sort of looking on the right-hand side here, you can decide how visible your profile is publicly. So if for some reason you want to not be found in a search, if something changes in your job or in your career in the future and you want to be hidden for some reason, this is where you would go to find all of those toggle switches to turn those on and off. For the most part, if you're using it for your job search, you want to be visible, so you want to set most of those to visible. And one final piece, if you are on your profile page and you go to the top where it says Me, you can click on that and it'll bring up a menu where you click Settings and Privacy. And this is where you'll find a really handy setting. Right here, viewers of this profile also viewed. So what that will do, if it's turned on, which mine is turned off, and I usually will turn it off for clients. If it's turned on, if someone searches for you and clicks on your profile, they will see basically an advertisement for 3 other candidates that have a similar profile to you. Typically, when you're in a job search, that's not what you want. So I usually will turn that off for clients so that you're not inadvertently advertising for another client who might also be a good fit for the type of position that this person was seeking you for. So that is one important piece that I typically will have turned off for people. All right, those are the major parts and sections of the LinkedIn profile that are important to know in order to be able to build that successful AllStar profile. Speaking of having an AllStar profile, here are a few of the things that you'll want to know about being able to do that. So number one, there are some must-haves that your profile absolutely has to have in order to even make it to the AllStar status. You have to have an industry and a location designated for your profile. You have to have a current work position, which means that the end date actually has to say to present. And there also has to be a location with that current work position. You have to have a profile photo in order to be AllStar. You have to have something in your education. You have to have at least 5 skills in your skills section, and you have to have something in your about section. So in order to get to the AllStar profile, which is what LinkedIn's algorithm sees as highest value, you want to have those sections included. Couple of algorithm hacks. I know I've mentioned already that most sections are keyword searchable and they have a character limit, so you want to use your space wisely. One of the things I didn't mention yet is that the closer you get to that character limit, the more value the algorithm sees your profile as, so it will show up higher in a search result than, say, someone who has a lot of similar stuff in their profile, but they have less content in each section. They don't get as close to the character limit as you do. So if you are really looking to be found in search results, it's important to try and get as close to the character limit as you can for each section. And a pro tip, if you go to that settings and privacy menu that I just showed you, you can actually turn off where it says share job changes. So for instance, if you are making a lot of changes to your profile, but you don't necessarily want to tip off somebody that you work with, then you can turn off those notifications and you can make all of those changes and no notifications will go out to your network. So that can be a really helpful thing if you are maybe conducting a little bit of a low-key job search that you don't want people to know about. You can turn off those notifications. And some networking strategies with LinkedIn, because it's not just about building the profile, right? You want to make sure that you are actively using it. That's how you're going to get the most out of it. You want to make sure that you follow companies, recruiters, career experts, anyone who has potentially more knowledge than you do about the things that you want to develop or grow in your career. Following those companies, those people will help for their posts to show up in your feed. So if you're familiar with any other social media platforms, your feed is what you'll see when you first log in, and it's just posts from the people that you follow or the groups that you're in, or the companies that you're following. That will allow you in almost a passive way to be able to see what these people are putting out and comment when you can, or utilize that for your own professional development. You also want to contribute ideas and thought leadership. We've talked about that a little bit already. You can utilize your LinkedIn profile to write posts, to share articles that you've written or that other people in your industry have written. You can create topics or comment on topics in groups that you're in. All of these things are important pieces of the puzzle to make sure that your profile isn't just static and sitting there. You're actually making it work for you in your job search. And you want to work smart. So if you are starting to spend more time on LinkedIn, you're starting to post important pieces of information, you can try to tag appropriate companies or important people to make sure that they're seeing that post that you put out there or that article that you put out there. Try to be visible in front of people. Don't just let your profile sit there, and don't spin your wheels by putting out stuff that you're not also being smart about and trying to engage with others or get others to engage with you. All right, that is all about the anatomy of a successful LinkedIn profile. I hope you found it helpful. You can find additional information if you go to resumeleslie.com/turnaround. You will get a totally free download of my AllStar LinkedIn profile checklist. You'll also get my LinkedIn ebook, and you'll be able to download the full presentation slide deck for this presentation. So hopefully you find that information helpful. I want to help as much as I can by providing resources like that for you. So resumeleslie.com/turnaround is the place that you'll find that. If you have questions or comments, you can email me at leslie@resumeleslie.com. And I'm also on all the social media platforms. It's basically Resume Leslie on LinkedIn, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. LinkedIn is where I am most active. So if you are looking for resources, you're looking for daily information, that's where you're going to want to find it. Again, if you go to resumeleslie.com/turnaround, that's where you will find all of those awesome downloads. Thank you so much. I hope you found the presentation helpful, and I wish you the best of luck in your job search.